All right, so what we're going to talk about right now is what we do on Saturday morning. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter X at Coach Vint. And if there's anything I can do, please reach out. I've also put some links down in the description for you. So it's Saturday morning. Now what? All right. 50% of the teams lost last night. 50% of the teams won last night. Doesn't matter which one of those we were. We're going to do these 5 things because we need to evaluate Friday night's performance to figure out what we need to do better so that we can be a better football team on the field the next Friday night. And that's what everything on Saturday is about, is getting better. First thing here down at the bottom, make sure you enter your game data. We used to have a 7 a.m. deadline for the coach or coaches that were assigned to that. That game data needed to be entered by 7 o'clock. All right. Now, talking to some coaches about how we can be better on Saturdays. What can we do to be more efficient? What are the things that need to be done? All right. We obviously got laundry and all that other stuff that needs to get done. You got to wash uniforms. There's a bunch of that, put equipment away, the logistics stuff, charge the headset. We're talking about the football things right now. So what are the 5 things on Saturday morning that we feel like we need to get done? Number 1, evaluate your position group or your unit if you're a coordinator. Some self-scout, stats and goal boards, player grades, and then film breakdown of the next opponent. These are the 5 things I think are most important. And this will help you. And it doesn't have to be in the office. It can be virtual. I prefer to come in the office. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The biggest regret I have in my career is the amount of time that I took away from grown men being with their families because we were up at the office doing stuff that we didn't need to be at the office doing. We were up at the office too long. All right. What you need to do is come in the morning. If you're coming in the office, get the laundry started. All right. Get the laundry flipped. You only need to be at the office as long as it takes to get that laundry done. Whether you bring players in or not is up to you. We've done it both ways. We've done it where some weeks, depending on how late we got back, we didn't bring them in. Sometimes we bring the guys in. They'd come in at 9. They'd go through a light workout. They'd get done with that workout. They'd do their treatment with the trainer. And then we'd go through and we'd watch a little bit of film and get them out. All right. Sometimes we didn't bring them in and we'd share the film, with them virtually, and they can watch it on the app. All right. Whatever works best for you. But here's the deal. 11 a.m., every coach should be able to be home with their family, putting college football on. All right. Anything that's not done by 10:45 in the morning, you can turn the lights out. It'll be there the next day. All right. Really important. Now, evaluating your guys, evaluating your position group is a really important piece of this. You are the head coach of your position group. If you're the offensive coordinator, you're the head coach of the offense. If you're the defensive coordinator, you're the head coach of the defense. Take ownership of your unit's performance. No one else is responsible for the success or failure of your unit. The performance of your unit on Friday night is directly correlated to the level of your coaching, the level of your accountability during the week. They're going to play based on how you had them prepared. So these are the things I'm looking at. What did we do well and what did we not do well? Who played better than expected? Because you had someone who stepped up and played way better than you thought they would. And who didn't meet our expectations? Do you need to make changes while you help that guy to improve? All right. What do you need to do differently when you coach this week? Did the drills that you took your guys through, did those drills have them prepared to play really well? Or do you need to make some changes to the drills? Do you need to change something you're doing or how you're doing something? This is where coordinators and head coaches need to give great feedback. And hopefully you didn't wait till Saturday morning. If you saw something, hopefully you gave feedback during the week so that things got fixed before the game. Hopefully during the game, you have really good communication so that you're not watching on Saturday going, how come we didn't fix that on Friday night? That kid kept stepping with the wrong foot from play 1. All right. By the way, I'll put a link to a CoachTube course that I have on offensive communication. I speak on this at clinics, and it's what coaches say is really has helped them to be able to eliminate chaos on the headset. All right. So we're going to watch this. We're going to go through the game. We're going to watch it. And we're going to take notes. We're going to write things down or type them into a spreadsheet, type them into Excel. All right. I like to go through and make notes of at least 3 things we did well as a unit, and then those things that we need to get fixed. But own the performance of your unit. It's not the O-line's fault that your unit didn't play well. It's not the secondary's fault that your unit didn't play well. Don't place blame on anybody else but you as the coach. All right. How do you get it better? We're going to watch the game together for self-scout and unit evaluation. When we watch it as a staff, as a coordinator, I'm always asking for feedback. You know, hey, what could we have done different here? Was this on our call? Hey, look at the call sheet. Was this one of our calls? Because each coach has a role in game planning, you know, and they're coming up with those calls for each down and distance situation. I'm asking them, you know, looking back, is there something we could have done different? So we're talking a little bit about play calling. It is not about second guessing. It is about getting better. All right. We don't need anybody in the back of the room saying, well, we need to be running air raid mesh. I don't know why we're a wing T team. We don't need that. That's what really bad programs, that they got a bunch of guys doing that. All right. Guys that don't become successful as coaches are the guys that are doing that. We don't need that water cooler talk. Everything is about getting better. All right. We're going to evaluate our concepts. What was good? What was bad? How do we fix what wasn't good? How do we do more of what was good? All right. When there's something that wasn't good, is it something we need to scrap? Do we need to 86 it? Do we need to get it off the list? Do we need to get it out of our practice plan? Or is it something that we can fix? Is the investment going to be worth it? And then finally, we're going to find some tendencies. So we've entered our data. We've watched the game. I'm going to run a couple of reports that we'll spend a few minutes looking at, just finding tendencies. All right. Each coach will have, you know, one coach is assigned, you know, goal line and then short yardage. That's our O-line coach. So he's going to look at the report. He's going to look at those specific areas. And we're going to spend about 15 minutes on this. From the offensive side, you know, on the defensive side of the ball, secondary coach is doing our second medium, second long, third and long defense. Situations are going to be more pass oriented. And then we're looking at full field tendencies, full field coverage and backed up. So the secondary coach, when I was a defensive coordinator, he's looking at those specific situations to see what our tendencies are. Now, what are we looking for? Offensively, we're looking for a run pass percentage based on down and distance, field zone, and based on formation. All right. Those are three things that we're looking at. All right. The down and distance tendency based on those three areas. If we have a down and distance situation where we tend to be, you know, and we're 85% run, there's something just glaring, then we're going to look at maybe a tendency breaker. All right. And we're going to take a note and say, hey, this week for the game plan, our opponent is going to be looking at the same data. They're going to be prepared for us to be, you know, this run pass percentage here. So they're probably going to call something to stop power. So maybe we need to have play action off power and add that into our script and then actually call it for that down and distance situation. All right. So we're looking at how we can break tendencies defensively, and then also offensively. I'm looking for, excuse me, for our field boundary tendencies. What are our field boundary tendencies? All right. Defensively, when I was a defensive coordinator, and I was an offense coordinator, defense coordinator, special teams coordinator, spent time at the high school and college levels. All right. When I was a defensive coordinator, what did we do? We looked at our blitz percentage, our pressure percentage based on down and distance, and our coverage tendency based on down and distance. Man or zone? What zone coverage did we play? Were we in man or were we in man free? And we're looking at those things because we know our opponent's going to look at those. And we're going to find those tendencies. We're going to look at down and distance. We're going to look at field zone. And then we're going to look at certain things we do against certain formations. All right. Are there formations that we check out of blitzes? Are there formations that we check into blitzes when we do some BTF? Are we changing that week to week, or are we keeping it the same and creating a season tendency that maybe we need to break? Next is the most important thing, I think, for player feedback, and that's player grades. This is an activity that is an investment, all right, because it does take a little bit of time, but I think it pays huge dividends. It helps me to be able to give an unbiased, objective evaluation, all right, where I'm looking past everything and only looking at performance, not looking at all the other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and again, export our playlist that we've entered the data. I'm going to export that. And all I'm going to keep, I'm going to export it to Excel. I put it into a Google Doc so I can easily share it with each player. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have the play number, the series number, down distance, and then the play name, formation play name. That's it. The other data I get rid of. And then I put the player names across the top. And again, I used to coached O-line for a lot of years. And when I coached O-line, I had 6 guys on the field every play. So if we had 90 snaps, it's 450 grades. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm not going to spend an hour on each play. I'm going to watch each play and I'm going to give a guy a 1 for doing their job. If they performed and did their job, they get a 1. If they did not perform, they get a 0. And I tell them, if I'm not sure, you're getting a 0. All right. That's what we're going to do. And then I'm going to add up the number of 1s they had, divide it by the number of plays they played. So if I have a guy who's playing 10 plays and he's consistently grading out 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10, he needs to compete for more playing time. If I got a starter who's consistently at 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, do we need to move someone up into that spot? Because no spot is guaranteed. Every week is a competition, every single week. Now, O-line, you're trying to build that unit camaraderie, so we're not just going to yank a guy out, all right? But if it comes to a situation where we see a trend, we're going to make a change, all right? This is really important. Share the grade sheets with the player. Each player needs to see his grades for each play and then his total grade. And I tell them when they get that sheet, which I tell them you're going to have the sheet by 1 o'clock Sunday. Usually I get it out Saturday afternoon. This is something I work on when I'm watching college football. When they get that, if there's a play that they have a question on, let me know. If there's a play they think they should have had a higher grade, let me know. Don't question every play. You get a couple of challenges. I may have made a mistake. All right. But if I tell you, no, that's a 0, then it's a 0. And if you see that I gave you a 1, all right, and coach, you messed up. Maybe you typed it in the wrong column, but that's a 0. Let me know. I'll adjust the grade. And that's an honorable thing. All right. Now, we're going to give them a playlist. So part of this, I'm also putting some notes on the film as we go through it. And again, I'm not going to note up every play. I used to do that and wear guys out, and then they're not going to watch film. All right. I'm going to find common mistakes. I'm going to find 5 good plays to show, and I'm going to create a playlist. So we're going to start with the 5 good plays. All right. Then I'm going to come up with a list of, 15, 20, 25 plays that the unit needs to see. If I have an individual guy who needs to see something else, I'll send that to him. And then I'm going to provide the film and the feedback to players. And I'm going to put something in the film to hold them accountable to watching it where they have to text me something. All right. There's something they're going to have to text me, and I'm going to put that in a couple different places. So I think this is something really important, is to go through and grade your players. And then I'm going to look at their grades. And it was interesting because we had some guys we were nominating for some awards and some all-star games one year. And, in the program, we provided when we filled out the application to put it in for the player, we put their grades, 2 of my old linemen. And we gave their grades, and another guy was like, "Oh, you grade one of the coaches from another kid who was on the team said, man, I saw that your guy graded out at 88% and this guy graded out 91%. You did that every game, or did you just throw that out?" No, we actually graded. That's what they had. That was their grades. All right. And again, it's not personal, it's professional. It's an evaluation. It's I talked to my offensive lineman. I said early in the season, we're going to grade out at 80 to 85%. Late in the year, we should be grading out closer to 90%. There may be some games where individuals bring that grade down because they didn't play very well. You got to hold your weight for the unit. All right. Then we're going to do stats and game goal boards, and we're going to go through the film and sometimes have one coach, sometimes have multiple coaches. For a lot of years, I did this as the coordinator when I was the OC and the DC. Defensively, we did production charts and stuff, which took longer to do. Eventually, we used Google Docs with that, and each coach would do the production chart for their guys. And again, I may have to go through, if we had a coach who's trying to get his guys' production up, he may look at things a little different. But, you're recording those tackles. It can take a while. Offensively is a little bit simpler, I think, because it's, one thrower, one catcher, one ball carrier. And sometimes it's only one dude that's going to be in the stat column. Defensively, you might have 5 guys in the stat column every play. But we're going to get the stats done. All right. And we usually do that before the players even come in. We have the stats done. We're going to use Excel or Google Docs, and we're going to add a new sheet each week. So we're going to have that game statistics, then the next game statistics, and the next game statistics. And then we're going to have a sheet that is cumulative season statistics, right? So it's got your cumulative stats. Now, this is important. I think you need to update Max Preps and send your stats to the local media. If you have a state association, send the stats. If your school does morning announcements, put some of your stats in. It doesn't matter if you won or lost, put some of those stats in, put the good stats, put a couple of things, get some kids' names read over the announcements. They love that. All right. If you have a local media show, having some stats that you can point out, all right, is really good. If you get interviewed, being able to say, hey, this kid rushed for 141 yards on 12 carries is important. A lot of times, a lot of organizations that are giving awards and even some coaches that are recruiting guys may look at that Max Preps. And I was talking to a guy recently who does color commentary. He called me to ask about a school. And he said, do you know the head coach? And I said, I didn't. And he said, well, I can't get a hold of him. I can't get a hold of him on the school number. I don't have his cell phone. And he said, there's no stats on Max Preps. And we're trying to get a little background on him to be able to do the game. And I gave him someone to reach out to get the cell phone number. But update your stats. You're not hiding anything. I mean, your opponent can see the same plays. And I'm going to say this about film exchange. It's the same deal with film exchange. I've never understood giving bad film. You know, I know in Texas, we always, 99% of the time got good film. Every once in a while, there might be an error. But for the most part, we got what we were supposed to get to where we were supposed to get it. When I was coaching up north at the high school level early in my career, I had to go out and buy a TV VCR combo that plugged into the cigarette lighter that I could keep in the trunk. And when we go to the truck stop out on the Jersey Turnpike to trade film, I was going to put that thing in and make sure we were getting something before I gave. All right. It was a big deal. I just don't understand that. Promote your guys on social media. All right. A lot of kids would love to play college football, but regardless, it's just a neat thing. Social media is there. It's a highlight reel. Show some highlights of your guys and then fill in your goal boards if you have them. I think having a goal board is important. These are things we need to do to be successful. Did we do them or not? It's accountability. All right. And then we're going to go through breakdown of our next opponent. All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to do data entry. We're going to divide and conquer. Some coaches will enter this data. Some will enter this column. Some will enter this column. Don't enter any data you're not going to use. Don't make coaches enter data that's not going to be looked at. All right. Only do the data you're actually going to use. Be consistent with your terminology. If you're a defense coordinator and you have a coach labeling the offensive formation and he puts, calls it trips right, and the other coach calls it right trips, but it's the same thing, you're going to have a problem. All right. So I think you need to have the same coach enter the same data. Be consistent and then understand this. Data gives you an advantage if you know how to use it. I've put out a couple other videos you can check out that talks to you about how we use data. All right. There is a lot of data out there. We want to target it. Some of the things I've already talked to you about are things that we're going to look at, but it can give you a significant advantage. I'm a lot better play caller if I know what the defense is going to be doing, because I'll call a play that attacks that defense to create an explosive. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm going to call a lot better game if I know what offensive play they're about to run. All right. Young coaches take pride in entering the data. Oh man, I don't want to do that. A lot of guys want the fast track. They want to jump right into that varsity spot. They want to jump into that coordinator spot. They want to be a head coach and go through the process. This is part of the process of becoming a great coach, is entering the data. All right. Taking great pride in. I'm going to give you an example. All right. Several years ago, we had our middle school staff was in charge of entering data. One of our middle school coaches took extreme pride in the data. All right. Always had it done exactly on time. And we were breaking down every game we could get of every opponent. One of his counterparts did not take pride in entering the data. All right. He was late with the data. Sometimes it wasn't even correct. Which one, when we had a varsity spot open up, which one do you think got an interview to get promoted internally? Everything you're doing is an interview. Every day you're interviewing for your next job. Every day you're being evaluated for your next job. Guys on staff are going to get a job. Will they hire you? If someone on your staff got a job tomorrow, would they hire you? All right. Take pride in entering the data. All right, coordinators. I think it's important to meet with your position coaches individually to talk about their position group, the good they're doing, and things that you might see that they could make some improvements. Ask them for their thoughts on things. This doesn't necessarily need to be done around a table. All right. The running back coach has things he needs to do to get ready with his guys. He doesn't need to hear me talking to the receiver or the O-line coach. So schedule a few minutes. If you're not coming to the office, it might be by phone to talk about their group. Make sure you're clear with your expectations. If you're disappointed with the performance of a position group or something that's happening, communicate. All right. A lot of times I found that when I wasn't happy with something with a position group, it was because I didn't communicate clearly the expectations. Any void in communication, John Gordon said this, a good friend of mine reminded me of it the other day. Any void in communication is going to be filled with something negative. All right. Negativity will fill all communication voids. So be clear with your expectations and make sure you're communicating really well. And then part of communication is listening. Listen to your guys. All right. Talk to them about what they're doing well, what you're liking about their group. And then, hey, what do we need to improve here? You need to improve this. Hey, I noticed in this drill, this is happening. What are you doing the drill for? All right. Talk to them about what do you think we can do to change practice structure? What can I do as a coordinator to help you to improve? When I was a defensive coordinator, I leaned on the D-line coach for some pass rush stuff. What do you think we need to do better to get pressure on the quarterback? How can we help your D-line play better? All right. I was coaching linebackers. D-line was doing a good job with a lot of things. What can we do to help them be even better? Because we had some studs up there. All right. And then we noticed some things with, we weren't doing a great job on the heel line. We were having a tendency to get upfield. Hey, we had 13 plays where our defensive end ran upfield. What do we need to do better to get him in a better position to be able to play the puller? All right. Things like that. So communicate with those guys. All right. Saturday morning is about getting better. I hope this gave you some things that you can use. Remember, try to get your guys out so they can spend time with their family if you're having them come in, because a lot of this stuff, get the stuff done that you need to get done together first, and the stuff they can do individually, let them get it done at home. Now, if it's not getting done, then you can talk about what steps you need to take there, but then you probably didn't hire the right guys. All right. Own your position group's performance. I can't say that enough. You've got to own the performance of your position group as a reflection of your coaching during the week, and do everything you can to help it to get better. All right. I hope you got things out of this. Again, like and subscribe. Check out the resources down below. I wish you the best.